Yeah, so you might be wondering why I title this "There Was a Big Bang," right? Because I think that it's definitely important to be able to understand that, from our perspective of things, these things that are valid and things that are ultimately invalid to a great degree in relation to how one operates on this particular plane, and in which particular section you seek to belong in, right? And basically, it's that everything is encompassed within this particular Big Bang, right? So when we talk about the notion of light, which I explain in the following video, there's the notion of the wormholes and how light travels out into the universe, etc. So we define here the concept of they having had been a Big Bang in the initial onset, and everything is contained within that. So as you move through, and if you have that ability to transact or move through time, it's through that where you find that particular variability and validity, for the most part. And I think that for me personally, like I've been around people who believe or think that they're smart when really they aren't, and the only reason that and it's impossible to to tell some people that they are that maybe they do have some type of smarts in some regards, but they lack the understanding of how to utilize that smartness with the necessary level of wisdom to enable them to bring something into fruition that has some validity and reality in the world. And so for me, I don't know, man. I just look at them in terms of just like, whatever reason or effect that they have. But for me, I've been taught that there's things that are confrontable and things that are not confrontable. And some things aren't confrontable at a particular point in time, but then they can be confrontable at a later point in time. So for those people that hold this particular notion of belief in relation to, because obviously I know my mistakes and the things that I've done wrong in this world. And so for you to be able to state that, you have, or for somebody to be able to say that they have this particular set of knowledge that they have over people, and that knowledge puts them above others, or they have some particular physical connotation that they believe puts them above others, it's only a thing that retains a specific level of power for as long as there's enough wisdom to be able to maintain it, right? So for me, in relation to what I value and what I use as a particular methodology of performing measurements, and that gives me the sense of power in terms of not only within the physical, like the things I value within this world tend to have a sense of sentimental value associated with it, and that sentimental value is then attributed to connected minds and things of that nature. So for me, I think that every action that I commit within my life is based on a particular consequence, right? I never think that I'm smart, but I try to believe that I am able to make smart enough decisions when given the opportunity to do so, right? And like I said, and most things that I'm able to confront, I'm able to overcome for the most part. And for who's there to help me and who's there to give me guidance, those people are there. And ultimately, in my hopes in life, unless death takes me, is the notion of being able to reciprocate them in later on in life, rather than focusing on the momentary now, right? And that's pretty much it. But for the most part, right, hell was created for people who were living, but through their whatever is actions that they committed, they asked to be sent to hell or to be put in hell. And that's my general connotation, because I believe that the world itself is quite diverse in one sense or another, and this diversity is ultimately what is the creative thing. within the beauty of not only life, but in the creation itself. Yeah, so there's a lot of things. So when we like, it's like how do we validate, right, the first onslaught of, like, you know, what is, especially when it comes to time and stuff, because things can change. But it's like, how do we validate the onslaught of what is real and what isn't? You know, and then that's what I'm gonna go delve into. But then there's also this notion of, like, you know, there was a big bang, and from there we ultimately conceptualize reality. Now, who has access to this information is Benial, but those people who were given this information took that information and tried to make the most out of it in terms of delivering it and explaining it to people within existence. But so let's begin with trying to understand let's begin with trying to understand the notion of identity and who you are in heaven and how we see and perceive you regarding the notion of judgment. But yeah, you can change things, but you see that the changes that you make, obviously you want them to hold value, but it's complicated. I'm not the guy for it, but you know, you can always address my elders if you seek to do so. And while I'm in their presence, I will be able to provide guidance and insights from my understanding of what the world is like and where the world is at in this day. But if you can find my elders for the first part, and you gotta find them, like, finding them is not like just pointing at them, it's you gotta find them, right? If that makes sense to you. If that makes sense to you, and don't make sense to a lot of people, but you know, I try to make it make sense to you in a way that in a way that's comprehensible and understandable. So this topic is actually kind of difficult for one to put into words, because I think that when we try to express this thing, right, it's very difficult to do so. It's simply because, you know, it's difficult to pinpoint down, and we always end up switching to different things in different lanes, right? But I think what's important to understand in this scenario is that there's definitely things beyond our comprehension and understanding, and in relating to the notion of time, and not only time, but other such mechanisms that are ultimately inherent within our world, right? It just naturally becomes very difficult, because those who lead the world, and I'm not casting blame on anyone here, but those who chose to take the world by force in some regards, right, utilized a methodology in there. It's kind of like bullies, right? If you're kids in school, right, you're gonna have somebody that's gonna be like, you know, that's gonna try to be the de facto individual that feels to themselves that they have the upper hand based on whatever knowledge and experiences that they've been exposed to. And yes, we do understand that some of those people do come from homes that are quite diverse and dynamic, making it difficult for them. But then at the same time, they inherently lack the necessary wisdom to for the future, right? They inherently lack the necessary wisdom for the future, right? So, for example, yeah, so that's pretty much it. So the people that ultimately, you know, govern this world through methodologies of what we appear to be force, which then turns to a world led by fear, right? Rather than justice and righteousness and things of that nature. It becomes highly problematic for various reasons. Right? That's the onset. So, you know, we find ourselves in this problematic state of being where,
for example, the reason why I said those things there was because I was trying to make the point relating to silos and siloed environments, siloed knowledge, siloed wisdom, etc. Right. So for me, right, I have limited understandings. Like there's so many things that I don't know, right? So one of them, which I'll explain later, is why the name Dr. Moon. Right. I'll explain that in a bit. The notion around so there's a lot of things I don't understand, and there's a lot of things that people can look at me and come to their own perceptive concepts around what it is that I may be ultimately maneuvering in. But I think that's the reason which I put in a short video before. That's the reason why specific people can ultimately exploit me, right? But then I know and understand that then there's the correct faith, that the correct knowledge will come to me in time, at the right time, and when I can utilize it in the right way. But let us begin, right? The first thing that we need to understand is identification, right? So identifying who you are as an individual is actually quite difficult, especially when it comes to the spectrum of time without imposing any particular silos upon that, right? So in heaven, right? Because the world is omnipotent, right? There's multiple things where people can start using time and things like that to perform specific trickeries upon individuals. And in performing those trickeries, these individuals then, try to find ways around it. And it's fucking difficult sometimes dealing with these foxes and whatever it is that they deem fit. So, when you're created, right? When your intention as a being is created, as there are multiple universes, as one can comprehend, they are these discs, right? Read one more. Wait, how many do we have here? I think there's one here, which is Dahat. WAT, which is basically stands for knowledge. So basically we have these things in being. So we have these things in existence, right? These balls of light, which are basically who you are as an individual, right? And then what happens is that the flesh forms around these things here, right? These are called the Sephiroth. I believe that's the terminology for it. So basically, your flesh forms around these things here, right? And as your flesh binds to these things here, right, which are drawn down from the heavens into the earth through union between male and female, right, for the most part, and that ultimately determines, because obviously, of course, there's the Big Bang somewhere there that people are like, oh well, that thing happened, but basically that's what formulates who you are on earth and also within the heavens, right? And so this is what we use to identify and know you. These are they're like light, but they're not really like lights. They're kind of different. They're like it's not light. It's like, for example, how do you describe what a thought looks like? You have a thought, but you can't describe it. Like, you have thinking, but you can't define what thinking looks like, right? It's the same way. So it's just like this. People attribute it as a cloud or something, or just like, this thing that's on top, like a thought that's just like floating by. And that's the same way for these particular lights, right? But basically they have like a certain level of intensity to them. I define them as light because they operate on what's kind of like a spectrum or a frequency of sorts, right? So it's like from where it begins, and where it ultimately has some particular type of notion, right? And between that is this, the intensity of it, and the variations between these is what ultimately determines. And then these are kind of like key combinations of which, you know, you have that particular, that defines who you are as a character that can be in existence within the heavenly realms, right? So the I, right? This is what I was saying before about, you know, angels and stuff like that. Like the I doesn't really exist, right? The I is a complex thing that doesn't really, in essence, in our world view or in our understanding of the world, the I does not necessarily exist the way that we would like to understand it, but this does, right? So without the flesh, right, if we remove the flesh, it's very difficult for you to even begin to find his eyes, right? Healers of the light, you might want to look at that, because I believe that it definitely goes into depth in relation to understanding these attributes here. I thought Joanna would be kind of, I thought she'd be kind of hot though, for the most part. Maybe. I could never imagine what she actually looks like as an individual. But let's just say that I did conceptualize her to be kind of like maybe kind of hot, or whatever the case may be. I don't know what you think. People out there, go check her out, but not because she might be hot, but just because that she actually does good stuff. That's actually important. It's actually kind of important, but it's difficult to pinpoint exactly as to the importance of it. But when you delve further deep within, if you actually take the time to read it, you might get a bit of headaches and stuff like that. But it makes sense. You're like, yeah, this shit is legit, right? So basically, that's it, right? So these light things, you know, this I, because the most of what we conceptualize as I, as we come in as children, right, into this world, right, is we conceptualize the I as the body, because it's what we ultimately use to feel and conceptualize this world. But it's kind of like waking up to a degree, right? But then when that's removed now, bro, shit crazy, man. It's difficult to find out what to hold on to, who you are, you know, what ultimately makes you into a being. But that's what it's like in heaven, and you just like these things, these intentions existing there, you know, and you can, but it's like it's like you can't influence this, and like your brain can't influence based on your understanding of the world. Though it says that is above, so below, but so below, so above. You know, and so that's it, right? So that's pretty much it. So we're getting to this section of understanding the notion of judgment and things like that. Because for me, I'm alone in this, right? I'm alone in this world, right? A lot of people kick me down. A lot of people would, you know, just look at me like man, some type of fucking turd waste man kind of thing. And, you know, these people are basically, you know, it might be because one's black or whatever, and their understanding of what they believe black people are based on what they've either been told by white people. And I'm not talking about, you know, particularly any particular group of people. I could be talking about Indian people. I could be talking about, you know, some other type of people. Or, you know, the world is a big place. But basically what they could have been told by basically other people, right? Because obviously, of course, the image that's controlled by Western people, by Western civilization, is what people ultimately understand about who these other people are, who black people may be. But, you know, for a long time, we've definitely been traveling, exchanging things like ivory and things like that, you know, all that type of stuff has been going down pretty well in exchange for clothes and stuff, you know, gifts and things like that. Until, you know, because there was also issues in regards to people burning books, right? So we thought like, oh, well, for us not to have our books and knowledge burned that we've accumulated over time, you know, it's better if people keep the knowledge, and we know that life is sacred, so nobody's gonna attack life. These things were taught in nature, and in relation to wars and stuff, you know, there's people that defend and fight, and there's people that didn't do that, and these people that we valued, who collected and attributed knowledge, were made sacred and were told not to harm these people, right? Because they were keepers of that thing. But it just, you need multiple aspect of disaster recovery for the most part. So that's pretty much it, right? That's what it looks like, right? You need to look into these separate. I can try because I understand it's like foundation, right? Foundation, kinship, splendor, victory. I know understanding. I know. It's wisdom here, then understanding. Then there's a crown here. Then there's love. And I think like splendor or something maybe. Cause that's victory. That's splendor. That's knowledge. And what the fuck is the other thing, man? There's another one, man. I can't remember it. I can actually look it up right now, to be fair. Me just trying to get my... That's it right there. Okay, cool. That's that. So let's see. What's the other stuff right here? Let me just... Okay, I'm in qualms with the Wikipedia version. I didn't want to put up one of the texts in there, but basically one of these is a discipline. So there's discipline, glory. So there's probably one more here as well, another thing there, which 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 brings it up to about 11. Yeah, of course, because. Yeah, so basically there's another one which is a glory, a discipline, which makes sense. So yeah, these are. I don't like the Wikipedia explanation. I prefer the other one. But yeah, so basically those are the things that ultimately are used to evaluate. And this is actually the most latest system to date. And I think the world changes continuously, right? And so then that's basically that's how we know who we can pinpoint a particular individual from another particular individual based on those attributes. And every action that you ultimately do within your lifetime is determined upon these, and the experiences which you use to define the world or your understanding of the world are basically based on these things here. That you have a subconscious mind. These ultimately operate within the subconscious plane, and then in the conscious plane, which is influenced by the subconscious mind, right? And experiences that you can catalog in order to effectively determine the strategy that you take is ultimately geared towards these things here, and your understanding and how as you move through life, the erosion of life coming towards you, the reactive force, right? The reactive force as it moves towards you is the reactive force that then determines how you formulate the body and things of that nature. Right, so that's pretty much it, right? For the most part, which is fine because people want to know how they can be identified within the seven realms. Now, these also can be attributed or can have a direct relation to the chakras themselves, but the chakras themselves are more so different because the chakras are more so a methodology of how that particular this is actually like a different thing, right? This is actually like your soul, whereas the chakras themselves are just like bindings, right? They're kind of like bindings, and there's the main 7 bindings that we're aware of, and then there's the ones that go into more detail in relation to how this thing here is correlated to that, but basically, yeah, the chakras are like bindings for the most part, for the body to the actual soul, and they're like also like gateways as well for specific information and specific knowledge attributes to be filtered down. But it's pretty much this for the long run. This is the soul that has relevance and importance in the overall schematics of things, and it's your identity in heaven. And so when it comes to this notion around wait, I gotta wipe this 2 minutes. Actually, maybe we can just fit everything in one section. So basically, right, before I explained the difference between static and dynamic analysis, right? Static and dynamic, right? Now, before the technology I was explaining regarding this analysis, right? The news is out there, like, it was before the judgment. So when we do these in heaven, when we judge the world, right? When the world is judged, it happens once, right? And when that once happens, everyone pretty much forgets and things like that, right? But the static analysis is basically looking at information within the world, right? The information available to us in the world. And then, so that's like things like bank records, things like who lived where, when, and why, transportation. It's like, or even like social media text and things like that. It's analysis of information that without a key understanding and interpretation of what's actually happening. And the dynamic analysis part is actually visualizing, right? It's actually like not only using the static side, but using the actual visualizations to determine events that are happening within the particular environmental situation, right? And basically, like, it's kind of like that film. If you've ever watched that film, Deja Vu, right? So that's where it's a perfect analogy of both static and dynamic analysis, right? And then, they added on extra stuff in the long run to do even more like fine-grained analysis processes using like an extra level of biology, right? And every time, because some people are trying to beat the clock, some people are obviously trying to change the future, trying to change heaven, trying to change things but what they actually want is control. So they pass back information after every judgment, and so you find sprinkles of information in the past relating to future technologies, right? So because they're trying to control this, right? And so they pass on information, and it's just, because I'm just me, man. I don't really know in terms of like all that stuff there, because that's them, and like, though I do have some relevance of power and control. So for me, and then there's like these other fucking assholes over here, which are just like, like limited knowledge and dumb down people and control them. So these are just like, they control a small spectrum, like it's like a small section of it. It's like a small section of reality. They're fucking wastemans, man. They have power, but they don't. They just waste. So basically, they dumb down the people, and based on what the people don't know, then they like control them about like, oh, well, this didn't happen, or it should be like this, or the future that I saw was like this, so it must be like this. Whereas these guys here, Like that's like, you know what? Yeah, that's like IT department and their change requests and things like that, right? Like we all have faith in them. I'm not trying to take the piss or nothing, but they're usually like laughing at people that are like, you know, like people that work in people that work utilizing specific technology, right? They obviously, you know, like they look down on them, but then the people that are over here, or even like software engineers, can ultimately look down on these IT department people. But yeah, that's what they basically do. I don't like them personally, and I'm opposed to them because they put constraints on what on the they put constraints on this thing here that we've taken time to create. But here we've got this one here, and then we've got like this like instrumentation, which is the new shit. It uses the record of that and chakras and things of that nature, and bioelectricity, right? Transmitted through light to ultimately determine to have a deeper insight in relation to reality and the things that are happening in this world, right? And we know that there's swap space. So swap space is the same as when it's nighttime, right? So we have swap space at nighttime. And so because there's no light per se from the sun, because what happens is the light from the sun goes up into space, and then in the future they open a wormhole. And this is actually now old technology because this instrumentation thing is the new thing. For the dynamic analysis part, in the future they open a wormhole, and in this wormhole they can look through it. So an eye, right? They look through the wormhole. And by looking through the wormhole, they can see things in the past, right? That's how that technology ultimately works. It's not explained like that in the film Deja Vu, and I gotta double check it, but that's how it ultimately works, right? And technically speaking, yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna need Elon for that. Yeah, we're gonna need a bit of Elon for that. But yeah, that's how it pretty much works. So we've got the instrumentation there. We've got higher people. So these people here are not Lucifer, are not like the devil. They're not that. These ones here are devilish, like they're powerful motherfuckers. These ones here, they're just like they're not really. They're just there. They're just like a minor inconvenience because you know you can prove it to them, but it takes longer and it's just more annoying, and you have to go through a lot of like their minions who believe them to be this great thing. But me personally, if I could, bro, man, just shift these brothers out here, cause well, I don't really have that power yet, but we'll get there. Like, I don't like him. You can get the better ones, the ones which are more legit, that are good at this, that actually like, you know, like actually like, oh yeah, well, this is 100% certifiable, right? But to get to that certifiable nature is very difficult because we know that it's not 100%, right? So there's always a change. So we add a little bit of variability in relation to what the outcomes and things like that may be, and we understand how to handle specific changes in a way that's reasonable, right? And be able to track back and do things like, you know, like you can do things, man, like, you know, like analyze logs and things like that in a reasonable fashion, runtime stuff, you know, that are actually good, right? So there's actually good ones. Okay, so these are not. Let's not. But they have access to demonic things and things like that. But they're not like that premium shit. The premium motherfuckers are these motherfuckers here, because they got a bit of distance. These guys here is like it's a short distance framework where, you know, they don't really have aspect beyond a specific point in life and stuff like that, and it's very difficult. Like it's there. These motherfuckers here got distance, bro. They got a bit of distance. They can do some time distance. They can do time distance. You know. So that's it. So you got a dynamic and a static stuff. Static wise, it's like how can you be certain that the information that we'll have at that particular point in time is still valid and accurate? you know, a lot of it can be decrypted very easily, like, you know, and what they're trying to do, some of the good people, right, they're trying to have ownership over that information and data so that they can't, you know, so that it can't just be decrypted and used in ways that we can't understand. But, you know, but then we just pointed the British Library, we pointed the British Museum, right, we pointed these museums and we're like, you know, where does that ownership come from? Do you claim ownership over it, or are you retaining it? You know, all that type of stuff. So we can use that information, you know, say, oh, well, you're digging up graves, you know, we got mummies and shit like that over there. So what's the beef, you know? So that's that there, right? So we got the static information. There's a problem in determining whether or not that information is valid over time, to a specific point in particular interview, but into a particular interval. But we got the swap space here. Swap space is basically like, you know, at the end of the day, when you've done your day of work, right, for the most part, you understand that you swap space to home. Right? You get this, right? In the daytime and in the nighttime, day, nighttime, you swap spaces. You swap the space, right? You swap the space. So that's swap space. We don't tend to analyze the swap space, right, from the organizational perspective, but just understand that it's there. That's what it is. That's what it means. From when the CPU is like the sun, right? CPU, and that's pretty much it, man. I can't really go into too much. We're on a 30-minute mark here, but that's pretty much it. So with this instrumentation, we have access to more information about using this to determine the structure and to actually make more informed decision using the analysis from this thing here. But it's actually like the thing of like, how much information can we extract from the light, right, that we see here? Does the light get weaker as it travels through, and can we reverse engineer that light to actually be able to ascertain or to actually get visions and images of what it actually looks like at that particular point in time? But we lost access to aspects of this, right? To aspect of this, like it was complicated, but there was an ongoing case in relation to marriages and things like that, and this, that, and the other. But I think we solved it. We solved that problem. Now, in relation to that, like the book is closed, and that's why everyone's pissed at the past about some stuff or whatever. I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but it's something to do with, like, you know, it's like some type of exploitation, but for the chief to actually actively do it, you know, in front of God and all that type of stuff, and there's laws and stuff, you know, like what can't happen, and this guy knows, man. Some of these people here know, they actively know, like, the scam, but yeah, man, but yeah, man, that's over and done with for now. Like, that ain't going on. It's still there, but that's finished. Now I think they're trying to do like some fucking, I don't know, man, some other thing. Where now they're trying to do like a new one, like, oh, well, if we have to defend this person because he doesn't know this or he doesn't know that, rather than educate them into coming into fruition and into fruit. Like, but when the books open, the books for judgment open, that's it, right? So a lot of people actually stop that. Like, for example, in some countries, right, it's like you just have to adhere to the law. You don't have to worry about too much about the dynamicness of it, right? So, you know, some of the social constraints and things like that, as long as the law passes, it's as long as the law passes. And that's it. But they can look until up a specific point, then they got cut off, basically. But yeah, they can look in the past as much as they want, like, and some parts of the future, but, you know, it is pretty much like that. It's difficult to ascertain as to the future, but there's some predictive stuff, which ultimately, you know how predictive analytics work for the most part, so you can understand how they can use that alongside aspects of this to determine specific things. But the accuracy, you know, is always thingy, and it depends on who's viewing the information and how the information is treated, which then ultimately determines the specific actions and things like that. Angels are like light biological creatures, bro. These things are crazy, bro. I'm telling you right now. Angels are crazy. Not even crazy like that, bro. They're just emotionless. Like the reason why we call them emotionless because they're not influenced by emotion, but it's not to say that they are heartless in nature, right? But the way they calculate is by observation of these things here, right? So that's the determination factor. Like they're just crazy. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. So when people talk about how God knows all, like, oh yeah, well, God, knew you from when you were a child to this, that, and the other, and basically it's like, like it's crazy the way it works, man. But it works, and that's why, right? That is because of that in some aspects of conceptual productive analytics. But all this is all fucking crazy. Shit will make you a ton of dough. But like it's insane. And so basically then comes this notion around bargains, oaths and things like that in the past that were made and things like that, right? So we can trust, for example, Red Hat, we're 100% sure that for my side of it, like I just know that that's a certain thing. Right? I just know that that's a certain thing. And that gets the data there regardless of the situation. Windows, yeah, but for the most part, man, there's a difficulty in that. Because Windows is about the structure of society, whereas Red Hat is also about the structure of society, but it's more so an open society, and it has more mileage, than Windows. That's 120%, 120%. The data in Windows persists onwards and goes onwards, but Windows, but definitely in terms of society and time-wise, Red Hat had a lot more mileage, and the ability to customize and edit, right? So the people that we needed to, they had more access to it to be able to actually create these things here without being limited in terms of cost, in terms of having to talk about budgets and shit and all that. And then by that time, society is fucking different as well. And I'm just here, man, just sometimes feeling like, oh, well, I don't have enough money, but sometimes I do have enough money. I have more money than I need in some instances. And then we have the Dr. Moon bit, right? So it's like when the sun is not there, the moon is still there. So there's a way that that's what pretty much that's what that is. When the sun is not there, the moon is there. And that's that. And the moon and the moon reflects light onto the earth. Though it's just not the same. We use it like dynamic stuff, all that data and stuff, man, and all this stuff. And then they have like these other things as well, like hashes and stuff that are like ascertain in terms of like the provability of it. Like it's just pointless. Like, bro, and don't end up in hell. Don't end up there, man. That shit. Bro, that shit legit, bro. Like I keep telling you, it's and it's always close to the action of the wrongdoing, right? That's where it is, bro. And it's like, you can be in hell 4 or 5 times, bro. Like it's not the one person. A lot of people think it's like this one entity, but it's when the entity gets initiated into omnipotence. Oh, bro, it's not worth it. It is not worth it. Just don't. Because a lot of it's actually like your own being creating it, and it's terrible. So to avoid that as much as you can. And I know they say that, oh yeah, well, it's a thing that was invented to harm people, and you can only go so far, right? With I didn't know. That only takes you so far in terms of the law, and it doesn't work with all laws, because there's some laws in this world that you can't do I didn't know on. And so yeah, so just be careful with it. Just don't try exercise a bit of righteousness. Try exercise a bit of lawfulness, right? And understanding, like, because you can't. That's the thing, man. That's the thing, man. That's the thing. But yeah, that's the schematics of it. And I'm just here, man, just lingering on, man. trying to see, like, I got my own beefs, man. I'm still over here. I haven't got to these motherfuckers yet. They come like post, like, I think it's like what, like if I touch like, I think couple years from now. So I'm on the edge of my like early adulthood. Well, you know, or like I'll say I'm like at the mid range of my adulthoodness part. So that in late adulthood or in early late adulthood is when I encounter these guys. I'm still over here fighting these motherfuckers, man. And then they're having me for the most part, but I got tricks of my own. I got tricks and things, but hey, man, they having a nigga cousin. I'm trying, bro. I'm trying. Because for me, like, the physicality of it and the notion of it is like you bind to something, and when you bind to that thing, it reciprocates and things like that. Like, they teach me all these. Just read the Jewish. Like, look, yeah, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. Like, and they just teach me all these things, man. I just get on board, and just keep pursuing onwards, man. But there's so much content, cause it agrees. And the more I read it, the more I get closer to these stuff here, and the more these here are like more in tune and stuff. And then the more I'm able to sort of interact, understand the angels and the world, and understand the flow of stuff, you know. And that's cool, man. But I think that's pretty much it. I think I'm probably gonna cut there. I think we're near 40, hoping to get this to like 45 min. For the most part, but that's the world as it is, man. I'll get into more about the CPUs and stuff, you know. The instrument is some new stuff. It's using bioelectricity and stuff like that, transmitted through light. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Swap space is just you swap space. It's that simple, man. For the most part. And yeah, and these guys, yeah, everyone knows about them, man. We've all heard them. They're the same way. It's just the same way, man. Yeah, static and the dynamic stuff. The dynamic one is just zooming with the light thing, and the static stuff is basically like the information that's available, the certainty of it, and that. But you know, they've got that stuff in the future, like, you know. So that's pretty much it. But I gotta get that dough. Invest in food and buy sticks like 5 in a row. No, I'm joking. Yeah, but basically that's what I gotta do at the moment, man. It's just stress, and I got these motherfuckers corroding in nigga, fam, adding mad fucking entropy and resistance. Well, not particularly resistance, but you know, just difficulty. Because a lot of people don't realize, man, when you apply for a job, right, you use these job application boards. These job application boards are systems that are distributed. So for every application that you do using your details, they can find that, basically, for the most part, right? And that's problematic in my viewpoint, because that's where the control thing is there. So they ultimately are able to influence that for the most part. Like, I think like the most common boards are like, I don't know, maybe like Bamboo HR, or I know Rockford use Lever and stuff like that. So you get a few points there, a few bits and bobs. But yeah, that's it. I think family wise, man, that's when I think that's when I want to be with these motherfuckers. That's when these motherfuckers start looking at a nigga, man, like properly, man. That's when they start like, oh, well, this nigga here. But once I defeat these guys, my family will be ultimately safe for the most part. Like, it'll be very difficult to damage and influence them in that regard. And then that's when these guys here start entering the picture, and I have a wife and stuff, and this, that, and the other, and I have biological. When I start doing more that stuff, that's when these brothers pop into the picture, cause and the distance is there. It's fucked up. I don't even know. I don't want to get to that. But welcome to the world. Oh fucking yeah, man. I think this year, what I was saying before about they had access to it to a particular degree. There was some ransomware stuff that happened, like women and stuff, or not just women and stuff, but something happened, man, with the ransomware stuff. It was peak. was P. But for me, bro, like, cause obviously, cause they wanna see and understand how far a nigga can go, bro. Nigga can go, bro. Like when I get to that evil side, cause maybe the evil side, but just you know, there was a point in time where it said that God said that leave not one standing, right? But we can't say you're determined when that was said. But it was said, and I think that's an important thing to take into consideration. Leave not one standing. It's a command, man. And then these people here, once their eyes have been opened, man, it's fucking crazy what shit they'll do, man. People will do shit that are beyond our conception, no understanding, no. But for me, I think, like I always say, that it's a determination between my heart and mind, and they fight, and they come to the correct understanding of how one should do things. But you know, in the sense of kingship and things like that, it always hurts to do stuff to people or to human beings, right? Regardless of how much of a dick a person is. But the fact that you had to do that to a living creature or something like that is hurtful in my viewpoint, and that's my stance on it, right? But it doesn't mean that, you know, people can escape a notion of what can be conceptualized as justice. But for me, I look more from it from a righteous point of view. But you know, there comes a point in life when you stop caring, right? When you stop giving a shit, and you just use the power given to you to influence or to determine whatever it is that you're intent to determine. And I know people can look at me sometimes like I'm stupid, silly, or whatever. But I know and understand that I'm ultimately not. It just I'm from the later times, you know. Like I've already had good past which went bad due to whatever reasons. I don't feel like anyone actively partook. I can't blame them because I knew the wrongs that I was doing, and I have those in memory. But did they influence those wrongs to come to being? I don't believe so. So that's my notion and understanding regarding this. But yeah, it's a raw system for the most part. Commercialization ends at some point. A lot of people die at some point. Not particularly. Let's not say a lot of people die at some point, but something happens at some point that ultimately shifts and changes things. But again, you know, we have, you know, and I think from this point, from the time being, from my understanding, you need special authorizations to go to specific places in the past and change things. A lot of people want to try to see if they can, like, you know, you can't just, you know, do these things the way that ultimately one would like to do in terms of that, but it's possible. UFOs, well, certain things like that, man, but it doesn't really matter for the most part. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. But there's a lot of content out there, and a lot of information. Like literally, if you want it, it's fucking there. There's tons of it, man. Jewish motherfuckers made it. You know, you gotta ask yourself why the Jewish is so, you know, why the Jew is so different from everyone else, and because they know. And they've seen and they've understood, you know. It's things here. It ain't a joke. This ain't a joke. This world. And I'm at the bottom of it. At least that's my understanding of it. But I can become into the knowledge and into the understanding of life, or into the understanding of the light of God, which is the truth of man. But yeah, light fail, whatever, all that type of stuff, man. So crazy, man. But I'm meant to feel something or something, but I don't know, man. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna probably cut this video there, and yeah, and pretty much it. And those who understood, and those who did not. But it's there, and if you seek to understand it more, you know, there's always a comment section. There's always a comment section for your possible consider for your yeah, that was a comment section for your consideration. I think our brain cells are becoming a bit more relaxed. You motherfuckers go too far sometimes, but if I could, man, I will. We'll see when we get there. But like I said, I'm still growing in mind and thought, so I'm already a grown man. It be what it be, man. It be what it be, man. And yeah, laugh at people, because that was put there for you to be able to laugh at these people for whatever reasoning that you feel a necessity. And I'm about to munch some of these Stixies, these double happiness crunchy and real fruits. These pookie. Yeah, that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it's insightful, and I hope it brings some light and yeah, I hope it brings some light and knowledge to you. I don't know why. Whenever I'm at the ending of things, it's like there's an issue in my brain cells there. But yeah, I think that's almost fine for them. Yeah, I think that's almost. Yeah, I think that's almost fine for the most part. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got some insights and knowledge from